Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Yankees take 2 of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians after a very tough opening game loss in extra innings. The Yankees bounce back with 2 pretty convincing wins in games 2 and 3. And so you look back at the season series against the Guardians, Yankees take 4 of 6, win 2 out of 3 in Cleveland and in the Bronx. And really, they could have won all 6 games. Both losses were in extra innings and pretty crucial, not crucial, pretty excruciating type of losses. If you remember the one against Cleveland, which I guess was back in, I guess it was all the way back in April. And that was, and see, that's the difference, in recording these episodes where that was the last game of the series. And so the tenor of that was like, well, they could have had the sweep. They didn't. This one feels different because it was game 1 that was kind of the tough extra inning loss. So, that was a situation in Cleveland where now, to be fair in that one, the Yankees had tied it up against Emmanuel Clase in the 9th inning. So it's not as if like they were owed that game by any means, but they had I guess it must have been a 2-run lead in the bottom. I can't exactly remember the bottom of the 10th, the bottom of the 11th. I think Caleb Ferguson came on, and there was some fielding miscues, and it was a game they should have won that they didn't. That they let slip away there. And then this one, game 1, we'll get. Unfortunately, I think we're going to talk most about game 1, even though the Yankees really were definitely the better team in the series, and they won 2 of 3. But that game 1 was so frustrating in terms of individual player performances and decision-making and just lack of execution. It was just really, really frustrating and tough. But all in all, the Yankees come out of the series in first place in the American League and a game ahead of the Baltimore Orioles for the AL East. And this weekend, you have the Yankees home against the Rockies, which on paper, which doesn't really mean much at all, but on paper, it's about as good a matchup as you can have against the Rockies at home. And then on the flip side, the Orioles, they have a 4-game set against a pretty hot Astro team. Now, I know they lost the last couple of games to the Red Sox, but before that, the Astros were winning at will. So that's a 4-game set in Baltimore. So you'd like to think the Yankees will come out of that when I record the next episode after the Rocky series, that the Yankees will have gained a little bit more on this 1-game current lead. And I think it's going to go back and forth like pretty much down the stretch. I don't necessarily think either team is going to pull away. I think it's probably going to come down to about the last week of the season, if not less than that. And the Yankees play the Orioles the second to last series of the season. So good chance that's going to play a big factor. And look, this was important, like just in terms of the American League against Cleveland. So now the Yankees are a game and a half ahead of the Guardians, 1 game on the loss side. And that AL Central is really right now pretty much up for grabs between Cleveland, Minnesota, and Kansas City. It could really go any which way. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out in the American League. As far as Major League Baseball is concerned, the Dodgers have really been playing good baseball. They have the best record. They're only, I think, maybe a game ahead of the Yankees. And the Phillies, I think, are just about tied. So it's all pretty close. Again, like the top 5, 6 teams are all within a couple of games from each other. And with about, 5 weeks to go in the season, it'll be interesting to see if anyone, sort of runs away with that. And really, it doesn't mean all that much. At the end of the day, the name of the game is making the playoffs. I do think that if used properly, getting that bye, it can be a benefit, although we've seen a lot of times the team that plays that first best of 3 round, for example, the Texas Rangers last year, like they went on to win the World Series. We have seen a lot of success, at the very least, not necessarily winning the World Series, but at least maybe making it to the World Series. So it doesn't mean everything. That all said, I do think the Yankees winning the division is very important. Getting more now to the current. A lot of players, I guess let's first talk about the injury front. A lot of players that are potentially maybe close to returning, like a long list. And we're also going to discuss someone that actually was injured in this series. That happens in game 1. But as far as players coming back, first off, Jazz Chisholm Jr., I didn't think it was going to happen. He is going to be activated for the beginning of the Rocky series. And so Oswald Peraza has already been sent down. And that makes sense. I mean, look, um, do I wish Peraza would get more of an opportunity? I would. But the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't going to be for Chisholm, it was probably going to be for someone else. That's just the facts of the matter. And, for example, we'll talk about DJ LeMahieu. I really wish that he was no longer on this roster, but that's, kind of wishful thinking. But anyway, Peraza option to Scranton. Chisholm will be back on the active roster. And as far as players that are going to be rehabbing on rehab assignments, Anthony Rizzo, actually, he's going to be DHing. And look, we can't forget about the fact that he really was not playing well offensively or defensively before going down. But the Yankees are in a really tough spot at first base. As I mentioned, DJ LeMahieu, it's been bad, and it was really bad in that first game. Like, he probably more than anyone stands out as, like, just had a horrific game. After he had that little stretch where he was all right? It was maybe a few games, like maybe less than a week. And since then, it's just been bad again. And Ben Rice, unfortunately, he has not been very good either. And so that really opens the door for Rizzo. Now, the thing, too, is Rizzo's going to be DHing. So he is not quite at the point yet where he's ready to play first base. So I don't know what that means. Like, when will that even be possible? So, again, first base is a legit issue. And I wonder if they can try to get creative. Probably not, right? Like, moving someone to first. I don't think we're going to see that. I think those are probably your likely options, which is not great. And you're really hoping that Rizzo, which is not a position you wanted to be in, you're hoping that Rizzo can kind of be like his old self, which I think that might be that's a lot to ask based on what we've seen the past year and a half from him. If he can get back to the way he was at the beginning of 2023, that would be fantastic. I just don't know if that's going to happen. And then John Birdie as well. He's on that rehab assignment too. And I wonder where he slots in. See, to me, it's like, whose spot is that taking? I know that come September 1st, it's one extra spot, one hitter, one pitcher. That's all it is, though. And so let's say, like, it's going to be interesting to see where things factor in, because I think Birdie is useful. He is, but that would mean either. Okay, let's put it this way. Rizzo for Rice feels like it's somewhat inevitable. It's just a matter kind of when. And again, there is that one extra spot. That is true. So maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe Birdie does take that extra spot, but then there's also Jason Dominguez. And that's another conversation where we'll discuss Alex Verdugo. He has been absolutely awful. Alex Verdugo has been bad for months, like league worst in baseball. So again, there's a bit of a logjam there. And then for the pitchers, Clark Schmidt, I'm very excited about his potential return. I want to see what he can do. And he is going to be built up as a starter. And I guess I'll just say it now. Luis Gil was placed on the IL with a lower back strain, I think was what it was called. Let me get that right. What did the Yankees determine it as? And you know what? Honestly, with the heel injury, it may be for the best for now. Lower back strain, that's exactly what it was. So he might come back right at the minimum, like right after that 15 days, or it may take a little bit longer. But again, I don't think this is the worst thing in the world. For now, Will Warren has taken that roster spot. So presumably he will start one of the games over the weekend. They haven't announced that yet, but Will Warren probably will be that fifth starter for now. But Clark Schmidt, he's not too far away. Clark Schmidt's probably a couple weeks away. So how he does will be very interesting. And how that whole rotation shakes out is like, it changes like really start to start. Like, it felt like Luis Gil, all right, he's definitely going to kind of be a main factor, out of this rotation. Now, not necessarily, right? Sometimes you get hurt and you can kind of left on the outside. And I'm not saying that will happen, because I still think Luis Gil is extremely valuable, but the command was really bad. I mean, he allowed 6 walks. Like, he could probably use a little bit of a reset for sure. And then as well, you have Ian Hamilton, Cody Poteet, and then I think there might be another one, or maybe that's it. Like, well, Lou Trevino continues to be on that rehab assignment, and we still know Scott Efros is in Scranton, Nick Birdie, like Ron Marinaccio, who's healthy but just down there. There's just a lot in terms of the pitchers. There's a lot of them, like even more so than the hitters. There's like, and so now the one person that I think of, or I guess two, really one, like Tim Meza, who actually pitched a couple times in the series, like he would have needed or will still need to pitch to me really well in order to keep that spot, just for the fact that there's so many others that are kind of knocking on that door. So I think Mays is probably that's a spot right there that's certainly up for grabs. Michael Tonkin, I think, is safe for now, but there's probably a world where he could be in some danger of losing that spot again, though. I just wanted to, reiterate, there are, to varying degrees, right? Like Cody Poteet, like he feels somewhat inconsequential in the grand scheme, but, Ian Hamilton, he was not good before he got hurt. And I think people are kind of forgetting that. Look, I loved Ian Hamilton last year. I thought he was very underrated and was really, really like nasty and effective. But at the same time, like what you get from him, like remains to be seen. I really don't know. Right. So, that is going to be something that is determined, probably within the next couple of weeks, and we'll get a sense. But these things tend to take care of themselves, right? Luis Hill gets hurt. Like that's just kind of what happens. Sadly, someone will get injured, which will open up a spot. And then, you won't really know what that decision is until maybe later on. So, good problems to have, I guess. But anyway, let's discuss this series, which was a big one against the Guardians. Again, Cleveland's a team that you might see down the line. That I wouldn't be stunned if that ends up being a playoff matchup. But I will say I do feel good about the matchup from the Yankees standpoint. They have seemed to match up well against Cleveland. And to further extension, the AL Central. I mean, whether it be the Twins, they did take 3 or 4 from the Royals in Kansas City a couple months ago. So, like, those matchups are not ones that necessarily scare me. Still, to me, in the American League, it comes down to still the Orioles. I know that they're playing very poorly, but still, I do think that they are dangerous when they're operating as they can. And the Houston Astros, just because of the pedigree, and they're playing some good ball, and they're doing this all without Kyle Tucker, who will be coming back at some point. So those are again, no disrespect to the AL Central teams, but I do think that, again, the Orioles and the Astros, and even to a lesser extent, just because of the way the rivalry's gone down, if the Red Sox somehow snuck in, I think they would pose more of a threat. I know that their pitching's been really bad. I get that. And honestly, their chances aren't really great of getting in. But if I'm a Yankee fan, I kind of, for many reasons, I'd rather them just not be in there, not even have to deal with that. So anyway, game 1, boy, was that a tough. That was a game the Yankees absolutely should have won. They had so many chances to do so, and just couldn't really get the big hit or even get the productive out. I mean, and the Yankees in extra innings are not good. What is that now? 4-8 in extra innings, probably. I think. Let me confirm that. And obviously, in the playoffs, you're not going to have that ghost runner, so it's it's a little bit different. But I believe it's 4-8. They are 4-8. So yeah, and a lot to discuss in this one. Let's first dive into, and I mean, look, the Yankees went 1 for 16 runners in scoring position in that game. Like that's ridiculous. Like that, to go a full game going 1 for 16 is nuts. So let's go into like the players and how, I come out of the series feeling about them. Gleyber Torres, he right now, by default, is kind of your best option at leadoff. And it's kind of funny, too, because if you think back to it, opening day, that's kind of who it was. Gleyber, if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure, Gleyber Torres was batting leadoff. And it's not perfect. It's not even really fully ideal. But based on all the options that are there for you, for Aaron Boone, I got to say, whether it's versus righties or lefties, Gleyber is probably, if you don't want to mess around with Soto and Judge, right? Like under that premise, I think Gleyber is probably your guy. I do, because I like, in terms of like Wells, like I like him where he is in the middle of that lineup. Stanton, of course, as well. Volpe, I don't want him at the top of the order. I definitely want him more towards the bottom. So you know what? I'll take it back. The one person that would be intriguing would be Jazz Chisholm Jr. that is the one person that, yeah, I would be totally fine if you wanted to run that out there. And you know what? I think there may come a time where that does happen. And maybe it's even a situation where versus lefties it's Glaber, versus righties it's Chisholm. But I think that's one where I think you have to at least see how that looks. It's too intriguing to just not even try it. So I think when all is said and done, if Jazz stays healthy, that is one thing where I think that could be interesting. That said, I think when he comes back, they're going to stick with Glaber up top. And I don't have a huge problem with that right now. Glaber is at least, look, is there any pop? Not really. His power is pretty much zapped. But you know what? He's doing a good job of drawing walks and good at bats, seeing a lot of pitches. And so, yeah, right now, I don't think it's amazing. I'm not the biggest Glaber fan, but I do think that it's the best thing. Juan Soto, he is hitting a lot of home runs. And you know what's funny? And they showed the stat, he hadn't had a non-home run hit until he had a double, kind of an excuse me swing down the left field line, bases clearing double in game 2. That broke a long streak. So he hasn't really had a single in a while. And that's not me complaining about it, just saying Soto's hitting for a lot of power. He ends up he has 36 home runs, which surpassed his career high, which was last year at 35 home runs. So Soto now, well on his way to, if he stays healthy, going pretty well over 40 home runs. He's probably on pace. And again, the on pace thing, which we're going to talk about with Aaron Judge in just a moment, but with Soto, he's on pace for about 45. I don't know that he'll necessarily get there, but just the fact that's even in play is impressive because we know everything else he does in terms of getting on base. He's a really good hitter. He's right now, I think he ends the series probably under 300 right now, which is still one of the top batting averages in the game. But yeah, for him to now hitting all these home runs, that's pretty damn impressive. Speaking of impressive, Aaron Judge, he hit 4 home runs in the series. So Soto hit 2. One in game 1, one in game 2. Judge hit 4. He's at 48 home runs right now. He's on pace for about 60 home runs. This can happen, whether it be the 60 mark or tracking down the 2022 record at 62. This can happen. He is 15 home runs away from breaking his record, his American League record. And the Yankees, what's their record now? 75-53. 75-53. So look, you're dealing with 34, 75-53 would lead you to 34 games left or so. So there's not that many, to be fair. But he can do it. It seems like he's pretty much hitting a home run every other night. So with the pace he's had for the last almost 100 games, if he keeps that up, yes, he will get there because April was bad. And then really ever since, whatever it was, I guess late April, early May, just something we've never seen. So Judge, it's video game numbers. It's purely insane. Giancarlo Stanton, he, he's doing what he has to do. Hit a really big 3-run homer in game 3. Drawing walks here and there, which is nice to see. Stanton's not really one to walk, but he's done that a little bit. So look, the numbers have not been completely gaudy since he came back from the IL, but it's never gotten to a full point where it's whoa, Stanton's been terrible. He always seems to kind of do what he needs to do to kind of limit the cold streak. So Stanton, a real big force in the middle of that lineup. And overall, it could be a lot worse. And, I'm fine with what he's been doing. Actually, we're going to kind of go in not any particular order here. Trent Grisham, he had 1 pinch running appearance in game 1 and then subsequently a couple of at-bats. Boy, oh my God. The fact that he was a pinch runner, that's said in and of itself. Trent Grisham does not have speed. He does not really have hustle. And his IQ really doesn't even seem that great either. And it was one of the worst running. And again, a little bit of blame goes to Luis Rojas, the third base coach. But wow, we'll discuss it. It was in the 8th inning of game 1. But Trent Grisham, I actually do think that him as a hitter, in some ways, is underrated. But so many parts of his game, it's just really hard to defend. It's really, really bad. I just don't his style of play is frustrating for someone that really isn't that good. You got to give me more. Alex Verdugo, talk about needing to give me more. Wow, like we're talking about kind of like I think we've reached close to rock bottom. I mean, his batting average now sits at 227 with a 288 on base percentage and a 641 OPS. Like, this is bad to the point where, like, look, him being benched has to be on the table. And maybe the fact that Jason Dominguez isn't on the roster yet is saving him. But man, like Verdugo, he's got to lose that spot soon. It has got to the point where he is giving you absolutely nothing. Okay, I'll give him this. He gives you a good look. He's a quality outfielder, right? No one's perfect. There's been some mistakes, but he's a good. I'll give him that, right? But there isn't much else. And I'll also say he doesn't strike out much, right? He puts the bat in play, but there's minimal hard contact. Like, this Verdugo experience has gone way worse than I could have ever thought it would have, which is really sad. So Verdugo, his role really needs to be diminished. Let's talk about the catcher position, which you continue to get really good production out of Trevino and Wells. And the series started out a little bit concerning because Trevino started game one, and it's like, okay, wait a minute. I thought, Wells was said to still be the starter. But you end up leaving the series feeling a lot better about things because Wells ended up playing a day game after night game, including one versus a lefty and one catching Garrett Cole. So my concern was that Trevino was going to be the straight, like, personal catcher for Cole. Not so fast. Austin Wells caught him. So that's a really good sign. So I think what typically is going to happen is it's going to be Wells versus righties, Trevino versus lefties. But I still think that they're going to try to make an effort to still, like, the fact, again, the Cole thing is big for me. They know how important Wells is. And even the outs, like, he's really continues to have bad luck. Like, he still produces, but even still, it could be even better than what the stats show. So Austin Wells, a real important part in the middle of that order. And you know what? To be fair, Jose Trevino, he walked 3 times. And he's not one to walk normally. So Trevino, like Jose Trevino as like a pure, let's call him a pure backup, is a very good backup. He's, look, I know he doesn't have a great arm, but like, he's not like Jose Trevino is not like some total bum. I don't think we should be saying that. Like, look, he's batting 243 with a 724 OPS. I can think of many players on this team that have way worse numbers than that. So again, like, this is not meant to be saying it's him. All in all, the catching position's in a pretty good spot for the Yankees. We can't say that about many positions on this team. Catcher's pretty good. Anthony Volpe, who there was a lot of chatter about him going into the series, and it was a lot of it negative. You leave this series with him, and it was pretty good with Volpe. More good than bad, which was nice. Look, my thoughts don't change much. Like, I think like he still needs to be like part of that bottom 3 in the lineup. Like, even at best, like, to me, I'd rather him be, if at all possible, batting 9th. But look, it should be no higher than 7th on most nights. And the numbers are still not very good. But look, he does, like we always say, obviously the defense is top notch. And yeah, it was actually a good series for Volpe. I thought, like, and hopefully that can get him going because, again, like, he was really struggling. DJ LeMahieu, just a nightmare of game one. Really, really bad. And we'll discuss it as we move forward here. Oswald Peraza, was fine when he was in there, but, as I said earlier, he got sent down with Chisholm coming back up. Ben Rice, he's been struggling for sure, and it sucks because, like, he there's been an opportunity to sort of take that first base job, and he just hasn't quite done it. I still think there's hope for him, but I think that, unfortunately, it's hard for me to see him. If Rizzo is going to be healthy, I think Rice probably gets pushed to the side, but we'll see. And then Oswaldo Cabrera, the sad thing with Chisholm coming back, the one sad thing is now Oswaldo. See, that's where you almost wish that Oswaldo could get first base reps. Because, like, I think they should consider that. I really do. To add to his versatility. And we've seen him at first base very sparingly. But you know what? Versus right-handed guy, like, it's not going to be LeMahieu. And look, like, as Waldo compared to Rice versus righties, I would rather go with Cabrera. If the defense is somewhat similar, I think as Waldo's bat has been more consistent. And so Cabrera, just kind of does what he does. It wasn't like a great series by him by any means, but also, I thought he hit some balls on the screws and there was some good defensive plays against him, to be fair. So anyway, after a lot of discussion, and I think we're going to, get a lot into sort of game one, And game 2 or 3 will probably be a little bit, quicker. Those games were well more easily decided. This one had a lot more to it. And the pitching matchup, Luis Gil, who, like I said, goes on the injured list. He leaves this game early, although he wasn't going to stay much longer. He goes 3 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, 6 walks, 3 strikeouts. So that's always the concern I have with Gil. I think his arm is electric. There's so much potential, but the walks are always a concern because when it's bad, it's bad. And that Cleveland was able to put together good at-bats, and they kind of just wore him out. That's just what happened. For the Guardians, and the Guardians' rotation is a bit problematic. The Guardians' bullpen is like the best in baseball. But their rotation, it's I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I mean, look, losing Shane Bieber at the start of the season was tough. I don't think that they necessarily recovered, at least on paper, from what I'm seeing. I think they have some impressive, good young arms that eventually will get to a point where I could see them having good rotation. But right now, that I think could hurt them come playoff time, even though I think when you think of the Guardians, you think, okay, good pitching, good defense, good contact-oriented team, and Jose Ramirez being an MVP candidate. But, I think that starting rotation is a little bit suspect. So Matthew Boyd, he got the start for the Guardians. He was all right, not great, not terrible. 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. So here we go. Yankees take the lead in the first inning. And it was Juan Soto, 2-run homer against the lefty Boyd, his 35th homer of the year after, it was a solo shot to give the Yankees one of the lead, and then Judge. They go back-to-back. So Soto, Judge, I don't know how do you face that? I mean, that is, again, like people talk about Ruth Gehrig, modern day, I guess more so like David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, but like to me, this is even better than that, which is saying a lot because, I mean, those two were a handful. But Judge hits his 45th home run, makes it 2-0 Yankees. Then Cleveland does score a run in the second. And the situation, because I got to pick and choose what I want to go through here because there's a lot in this game. There just is. It was first and third, 1 out. And it's a ground ball from Bo Naylor to DJ LeMahieu. And he goes home, and they thought they might have gotten the out of home, but then they did the review, and Noel Janeski, hope I'm getting his name right, Noel, he is safe, which was the right call. Now, LeMahieu, a couple of things. LeMahieu could have decided to go for the 3-6-3 or the 3-6-1 double play. That was an option, maybe. I felt like he hesitated and threw the ball home a tick later than he should have. And then also the throw was a little bit offline. So again, I have a little bit of a problem with that. He ends up being safe. And there was nothing more from there. There was more high pressure, but Gil does strike out Jose Ramirez to end the inning. So the Yankees keep that lead at 2-1. Then at the top of the third, Cleveland ties it up. And top of the third, it's a 2-out rally, and it's walks that killed Gil. Noel walk, Jimenez walk, and then Schneemann. This was a bad 0-2 pitch by Gil. Just right over the plate, RBI single to tie it up, makes it 2-2. Then we go to the top of the fourth, and Brian Rocchio, who's I think he's more of a defensive first shortstop. He homers, switch hitter. He hits his 6th home run of the season, makes it 3-2 Guardians. And after a Stephen Kwan walk and steal of second, Gil's taken out of the game. The trainer came out, he was done, and subsequently he's on the IL. And I don't think it's going to be a long stint, but I also think it's kind of a necessary one anyway. Let him, get back to where he was, give him a little bit of a break. It may be good for him. So Tim Hill comes on. And, Tim Hill has been really good as a Yankee. He doesn't have overpowering stuff, but, he has done a nice job since they picked him up at a time when the Yankees were not doing very well. And he has emerged as just kind of he's not necessarily a high leverage lefty option, but I don't think they're also totally afraid to put him in some spots where, hey, it may be the 6th or 7th inning or something like that, and a tough lefty comes up and he comes in there. So Tim Hill is able to kind of stop the bleeding, and the game remains 3-2. Then at the bottom of the fourth, Trevino walk, Anthony Volpe RBI double. Ties it up at 3. Then he steals third. So you're thinking, all right, runner on third, no out. Yankees should score the run. They don't. LeMahieu ground out. Bad job by him. Peraza strikeout, and Torres ground out. So that is example A of where the Yankees could have taken the lead because Cleveland did not score again until the 12th inning. They don't score there, so the score remains 3-3. Fifth inning, Hill, scoreless fifth inning from Tim Hill. There was a little bit of a 2-out rally, a little bit of unluckiness, but he's able to get out of it. Then sixth inning, Mark Leiter Jr. comes on, and you know what? A nice inning from Leiter Jr., who going into that had really been struggling, so hopefully that gets him going because he's kind of dropped off a little bit, I feel like, in terms of the pecking order. But a nice job from him there. Then bottom of the sixth, Nick Sandlin comes on after a walk to Trevino by Boyd. Volpe singles, first and second, one out. That's where DJ LeMahieu has to be pinch hit for. I don't care if it was Oswaldo. I don't care if it was Ben Rice. I don't care if it was anyone on the bench. Trent Grisham, Austin Wells, any of them should have been pinch hitting for LeMahieu. What does he do? It's a double play to the pitcher. You can't say you're surprised by that outcome. That cannot happen. That is them respecting DJ too much for everything he's done in the past. We have to live in the present. So that's 3-3 right there. Luke Weaver comes on in the seventh inning, does a nice job, pitches a scoreless seventh for the Yanks. Then in the eighth, it was Tommy Kahnle. He goes scoreless there. Then at the bottom of the eighth is where things get interesting again. Cade Smith is on for the Guardians. Stanton walks, and so then Trent Grisham pinch runs for him. Then Verdugo strikes out. Bad at bat by Verdugo. Verdugo is providing the Yankees nothing offensively at all. Austin Wells pinch hits for Trevino, and what does he do? He hits one off the very top of the wall in center field. It was this close from being a home run. It's a double, and Trent Grisham does not score. He's thrown it at home, and Grisham is kind of standing at second. He should have been more ready to go, and he's just kind of standing there. And then, to be fair, Rojas kind of like had his hand up on the one hand, but then he was also telling him to go. So Rojas, it was a little bit sloppy there, but Grisham's kind of stumbling around third, looking behind him. He's not that fast, and he is thrown it at home. Just a terrible job all the way around. And this is where Trent Grisham, and look, it won't be this way come playoff time. Like they will maneuver, I am almost positive, like they'll maneuver their roster to the point where that will not happen. Whether that be even like John Birdie or even like Oswaldo, even though Oswaldo's not like the fastest, you will be hard-pressed to see a situation where Trent Grisham will be a pinch runner. That is a situation of where the roster is currently. But a terrible job there, and it sucks because Wells could have been the hero, and then Volpe grounds out. Ninth inning, Clay Holmes comes on. And you know what the funny thing with Clay is? You know what? He has been better in tie games. It's one of those things where, like, he's not good. Like, when there's a one-run lead or thereabouts, like, protecting that small lead, you don't feel good about it. But whatever the reason is, tie games, he's been all right. And he does a nice job in the ninth inning. He strikes out the side, in fact. Then Emmanuel Clase, arguably the best closer in baseball, comes on in a tie game in the ninth, goes 1-2-3, and he was very economical pitch-wise, so he was able to pitch the bottom of the 10th. Top of the 10th, Jake Cousins comes on, and Jake Cousins, I want him to have a bigger role in this team. He's really done such a good job, and he ends up going 2 scoreless innings in the 10th and the 11th. Rocchio ends up having a really just twice in extra innings. Rocchio had a really nice bunt single where the ball just died fair, and the Yankees couldn't do anything about it. Then Rocchio's still second, so it's second and third, no out. But Cousins is able to strike out Stephen Kwan, which is not easy to do. He's the toughest person to strike out in the league. Then they intentionally walk Jose Ramirez, which is the right thing to do. And then Josh Naylor, who has been struggling lately. Naylor is really a very tough, powerful threat in the middle of that Cleveland lineup. Naylor grounds into a double play. So it's 3-3 going to the bottom of the 10th. So here we go. Yankees are set up with an opportunity to get the job done. Soto grounds out. Gleyber moves over to third against Clase. And then they intentionally walk Judge, which is what they should do. So Trent Grisham has a chance to redeem himself. And it could have been totally forgotten his base running miscue a few innings before. What does he do, though? He pops out to first. So Trent Grisham, awful. Then Judge moves to second on defensive indifference. And what does Alex Verdugo do? Oh, you guessed it. A soft ground out to second base. Verdugo is currently useless. So we go to the 11th, and Jake Cousins gets the job done again. He gets it done again. He's able to provide what is not easy to do, a scoreless inning in the 11th. So the Yankees have another chance to walk this off against Tim Herron. And Herron is a lefty. Austin Wells hits a really hard line drive to deep right that is caught by Schneemann, but Verdugo moves over to third. So again, Wells comes so close to ending the game, or close, or thereabouts, and doesn't. Then they intentionally walk Anthony Volpe in front of DJ LeMahieu. So let's listen to that for a second. They intentionally walk Volpe, who's been really bad, for DJ LeMahieu. That's just sad and embarrassing. But you know what? They were absolutely right, because DJ LeMahieu ends up striking out in a situation where all you needed was a sac fly. And that brings you back to this. The idea that Trent Grisham or DJ LeMahieu, them bunting should have very much been on the table. With a runner on third and less than 2 outs, and both of them should know how to bunt. And so I'm not one of those, I'm not big on that, but in those situations, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that's a fair thing to want them to do. But LeMahieu strikes out, Volpe's still second on that strikeout, and then Oswaldo, unfortunately, hits the ball hard, but it's caught by the center fielder, Tyler Freeman. So now you go to the 12th, and now Tim Mayza comes on. So now you've reached a point where it's a pretty major step down in terms of from going to Jake Cousins to Tim Mayza, the lefty. Mayza has his struggles, and things eventually unravel between Tim Mayza and Michael Tonkin. So Mayza, the lefty, faces Lane Thomas, and Lane Thomas has really been struggling as a Guardian since he was acquired for the Nationals, but Lane Thomas comes through with an RBI double, gives Cleveland a 4-3 lead, and then Rocchio does it again. It's a bunt single. Crazy. Makes it first and third, no out, and then that's when really weird situation where Steven Kwan hits a ground ball to DJ LeMahieu at first. He's right near first base, but he doesn't step on first. Instead, he throws to second, and they only get the out at second. So a couple why LeMahieu didn't step on first, I'm not quite sure, because then if that happens, the only difference is that then the runner's in a rundown, and so then the runner on third, which was Thomas, he would have then had to make a decision, do I go home or not? So would it have added a little bit of, not complication, but a little bit something further? Yeah. But LeMahieu has to be on first, ended up not, that was not good, and it ends up where maybe you end up getting 2 outs there, because you probably would have. You probably, if done correctly, you would have gotten 2 outs. That would have changed the whole tenor of the inning. So now the situation is 4-3. So the game is still very much in reach. 4-3, first and third, 1 out. Michael Tonkin comes on. And for some reason, they pitched to Jose Ramirez. I don't get this one at all. At all. They pitched to Jose Ramirez, and he gets an RBI single. And Josh Naylor wasn't even on deck. It was Tyler Freeman. Tyler Freeman was on deck, and you pitched Jose Ramirez. That one boggles the mind, and especially because it was already a 2-0 count. Just put him on at that point. But the Yankees, at times, refused to do that. So it's 5-3 Cleveland, and then Tyler Freeman walks, and this is where Tonkin got screwed, because really it was strike 3. And the called it ball 4. I don't know why he did. So this inning really ends up becoming, it goes from bad to disastrous. David Fry pokes one to right, and it ends up being a bases clearing triple. Soto kind of tries to sell out for it, which I don't blame him at that point. You kind of need to make the big play. He doesn't get it, and because he kind of goes for it, 3-run score makes it 8-3. Eventually, you get a Noel infield single on a play where I guess it's a ground ball to LeMahieu. Tonkin kind of fell asleep there. At this point, it was a total mess. It's 9-3 Guardians, and then the bottom of the 12th. Scott Barlow comes on. The Yankees do score a couple of runs. Glaber gets a walk after a Soto strikeout. It is a RBI double for Aaron Judge. A 2-run double for Aaron Judge, right? Is the ghost runner. So a 2-run double for Judge, and then Grisham grounds out and Verdugo grounds out, and that's your ball game. Guardians win 9-5. So as I just laid out, that was just a really, really rough loss. I mean, the Yankees had so many opportunities to win it, and they don't. But give them credit. They come back in games 2 and 3 and are able to get the job done. So let's just quickly go through that. And I can't say enough about – so quickly, Nestor Cortes and Garrett Cole continue to pitch really well. So that's really big. And the narrative continues to change. Nestor Cortes, the more and more starts that happen, hey, maybe he will be – maybe he will find his way in the playoff rotation. It's possible. But yeah, Judge in this one, He hits 2 homers, 3 RBIs, and then Juan Soto, he gets a homer and 5 RBIs. So Juan Soto is up to 93 RBIs. So what is Soto's career high in RBIs? Let's just see that real quick. For a season, 110. 110. So there is a very good chance all he would need is 17 to tie. Very highly likely that he will pass that as well. Which that's impressive considering. Think about this. Obviously, he's getting good pitches to hit with Judge behind him, but Judge is not in front of him. So for him to have that amount of RBIs when the Yankees have had really poor, when they have not really had a good leadoff hitter, that is underratedly pretty damn. Again, I keep on using that word, impressive for Soto. But Judge, you know what the craziest stat with Judge? His slugging percentage is higher than the average MLB OPS, which is about like 714. His slugging percentage is 721. Like that's just incomprehensible. So anyway, Nestor Cortes, another strong outing. 7 shutout innings for him, 3 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. And now his ERA sits at 4 flat and his record improves to 7-10. Nestor showing, and look, we know he's better at home. And I feel like he's had success against Cleveland over the years too. I think it's been a good matchup for him. But yeah, Cortes, really nice job. For the Guardians, it was Cantillo, the lefty, Joey Cantillo. He did not pitch very well. 4 innings, 6 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts for him. And the Yankees jump out early. It's a 2-run homer in the first. So another first-inning homer for Juan Soto. His 36th homer of the year makes it 2-0 Yankees. Then in the third, Aaron Judge, he hits a 2-run homer, opposite field, 46th homer of the year, and that makes it 4-0. And then in the fourth, good hustle by Glaber. Kind of sets things up here. Now, Verdugo walks, and to be fair, you know what's annoying? Boone keeps on giving Verdugo credit. And look, he was down 0-2 in the count. That was strike 3. So Verdugo got lucky. Should have actually been struck out, but he walks. Then Peraza walks. And then Glaber gets an infield single where, you know what? He actually he hustled. If Glaber did what he normally does, he wouldn't have beaten that out. And so that leads to a Juan Soto, bases loaded, 2 out, full count. And he just kind of pokes it down the third baseline and fair for a bases clearing double. It wasn't pretty. And I'm not sure if Soto did it intentionally, but yeah, Yankees, that was big. That gives the Yankees a 7-0 lead. A lot of breathing room for Nestor to just deal, which he did. And then in the bottom of the 7th, Yankees score 1 more run, and of course, it's Aaron Judge. His 2nd homer of the night, 47th homer of the year. It's against Eli Morgan. Gives the Yankees an 8-0 lead. Then in the 8th inning, Tim Meza comes on for his 2nd night of work, and Noel homers to break the shutout. So Cleveland only scored 1 run in the final 2 games of the series. It was this Noel homer off of Meza, but Meza does go 2 innings and was all right. So that'll be interesting to see, that roster spot with Tim Meza. But yeah, he gives it that 1 run. Yankees win by a final score of 8-1. And then now let's go to the rubber match in game 3, which the Yankees would win. 6-0. So Garrett Cole would allow 1 hit. And in fact, Yankee pitching would allow 1 hit. And it was to Stephen Kwan, the first batter of the game. And that was all it was. The Guardians couldn't do much. Cole, it's funny, the walk to strikeout ratio, not good. 5 walks, 2 strikeouts, but he only led 1 hit. And so Garrett Cole improves to 5-2. You take away those 2 Met outings, and Cole has pretty damn good numbers. And so, Yankees need him to continue pitching this way. And it's definitely been very good the last 4 starts for Cole. For the Guardians, it was Gavin Williams, who, he battled. It wasn't great. Williams loses, which drops his record to 2-6. He went 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And the Yankees, again, they take the lead a little bit later this time. In the 4th inning, they do so. Again, Cole gives it that 1 hit in the 1st inning against Stephen Kwan, a clean single. But in the 4th, it would be Aaron Judge. 48th homer of the year. Again, he's on pace for about 60 homers. This is going to be interesting to see if he can break his own record. It'll be very interesting to see. So it makes it 1-0 Yankees. Then in the 5th, the Yankees break it open. Leadoff walk Ben Rice, then a walk for Gleyber Torres, then Soto grounds out. And, they probably could have turned this double play. That was costly that they didn't, because now it's 1st and 3rd, 1 out. Nick Sandlin, the righty, comes on. They eventually intentionally walk Judge, and it's Austin Wells, which, he kind of normally does. Like, Wells puts together solid at-bats, and he gets a sac fly to to give the Yankees a 2-0 lead. And then Giancarlo Stanton, it's the big blow from Stanton, a 3-run homer. I don't know how it got out. Like, he just has crazy strength. 21st homer of the season, gives the Yankees a 5-0 lead. Like, kind of dead center, like just maybe to the right of dead center field. Not many players can do that. He's got that crazy strength. So it makes it 5-0 Yanks. Cole goes 6. 7th inning, Tim Hill pitches a scoreless 7th. He continues to do the job. He gets it out in the 8th as well. Luke Weaver finishes off the 8th inning. And then in the bottom, the Yankees score one more run. It was Volpe that kind of was the catalyst. Double with 1 out, steals 3rd. Oswaldo walks, sac fly Ben Rice, makes it 6-0. Then Michael Tonkin is able to pitch a 1-2-3 9th inning. So all ends well for the Yankees, where it was a tough beginning, but they are able to get the job done, take 2 out of 3 from the Guardians, improve to 75-53. They're a game ahead of the Baltimore Orioles. And now let's just shift over to this weekend set against the Colorado Rockies, who, they have one of the worst records in baseball. In fact, I think it's probably bottom 3. Let's just confirm that. It's really they're neck and neck with the Marlins for the second worst record in baseball. And the thing that stands out too, the Rockies have an 18-48 road record. So look, this is where I don't think the Yankees will sweep, just based on the way they've been. They seem, and especially at home, like they seem to let games slip. This is really a series that you should sweep. So you want to get a little bit greedy here and take all 3 games against a really bad Rocky team that is way worse away from Coors Field. So, yeah, you're looking to kind of win all 3 games there. I will not be pleased with just winning 2 of 3, but we'll see what happens. So the Friday game will be a lefty matchup, a couple of southpaws. Kyle Freeland against Carlos Rodon. Rodon will look to bounce back after a poor outing against the Tigers. So that'll be game 1. Game 2 and 3, the Yankees actually don't have an announced starter. So I'll give my thoughts on that. Old Timers Day is actually going to be before game 2. But it'll be Bradley Blaylock, a young right-hander, against either Marcus Stroman or Will Warren. I'm wondering, because that's where Stroman would line up. It seems like they're trying to kind of give Stroman some rest between starts. So again, I think it's going to be Warren and Stroman, in my opinion. It's just a matter of who pitches which day, right? I mean, maybe they somehow go bullpen game, but I wouldn't think so. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, I think it's going to be probably both of them, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. And then the Sunday starter for the Rockies, another lefty, which that's the one concern still, is the Yankees are not anywhere near as good against lefties as righties. Austin Gomber. So games 1 and 3, the Rockies will be throwing out there a southpaw. So that would be one reason to maybe caution the Yankees' ability to win, because the Yankees versus left-handed starters this year, their record sits at 14-20. So there is that. So, but anyway, we'll see what they do. That'll finish off the homestand. They do what they have to do. They take 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians, and now they will await a series, a 3-game set, which includes Old Timers Day, against the Colorado Rockies.